You can't replace the fire that didn't burn for you. Some men walk into her life and leave no footprints. But then there's the one she can't forget. Not because he was loud, but because he was silent in all the right ways. He didn't try to impress. He didn't perform. He didn't beg to be chosen. While other men rushed to be seen, he stood still and was noticed. She met him thinking it would be nothing. But something in her paused, because for the first time, she wasn't in control. He could walk away at any moment. And the terrifying part? She knew. She would feel it for a long, long time. And now, you'll understand why. Rule 1. He doesn't need her. A man who doesn't need her is a man who rewrites the entire script of desire. His power isn't in how much he gives, but in what he withholds, with clarity, not cruelty. His strength lies not in loud declarations, but in quiet indifference to anything that tries to pull him away from his path. This is not aloofness, it is self-possession. A man who does not chase is not running away. He's simply rooted so deeply in his purpose that no storm, no silence, no seductive test can shake him loose. To live this truth, he must train himself to respond with stillness. When she pulls away, he doesn't flinch. When she goes cold, he doesn't heat up in desperation. When she tests his patience, he passes with silence. He doesn't text first to seek reassurance. He doesn't offer explanations when none are asked. He lets his absence say what his presence no longer needs to prove. Imagine this. A woman starts pulling back, longer response times, vague replies, a little flirtation with distance. Most men panic. They overcompensate, double down, plead for clarity. But not him. He goes deeper into his work. He's not being manipulative. He's being immovable. He posts a picture in motion, building something, refining something, growing, not for her, but for himself. And it's that stillness, that unshakable self-trust that draws her curiosity like gravity. But it's not about playing hard to get. The key is authenticity. If your calm is a mask, she'll sense the crack. If your silence is a performance, she'll wait for the applause. What you must watch for is your own emotional triggers, the urge to explain, to prove, to plead. When you master the space between stimulus and response, you no longer chase. You attract, and you do so without even looking back. Rule 2. Control your attention. To control your attention is to control the most valuable currency you have in the modern world. In a time when everyone is starving for validation, attention is no longer passive. It's power. And the man who understands this doesn't just use it wisely, he weaponizes it with intention. His attention is not a reflex, it's a reward. He does not hand it out to anyone who looks good for 5 seconds. He knows that where his eyes go, his energy follows, and that energy, once given too freely, loses its worth. To live this, he must stop reacting automatically. He must train his impulse not to like, comment, or reply just because something shiny shows up. When she posts a story that feels tailored to trigger him, he doesn't bite. When she pulls back and hopes he leans in, he leans further into himself instead. This is not a tactic to manipulate, it's a standard to protect. His delayed response is not to punish, but to reclaim space. His silence is not cold, but intentional. He answers not when it's convenient for her, but when it aligns with his peace. Picture this. She stops replying for a day, then posts something suggestive, meant to reel him in. Most men would swipe up, react, try to re-engage. But he skips it, waits, replies hours later, if at all, and when he does, it's measured, short, unbothered. She notices. She feels the shift. The dynamic has changed, and she's no longer sure she's the one in control. What he must guard against is the urge to please, that reflex to respond quickly, to show he's still interested, still available. But what's easily accessed is easily ignored. When a man becomes scarce, not in presence but in attention, he becomes valuable again. And in that silence, she sees her own reflection. Not because he told her anything, but because he stopped giving everything. Rule 3. Make her earn access. To make her earn access is to reclaim your worth from the realm of convenience. In a world where connection is instant and oversharing is normal, true value lies in restraint. A man who gives his attention, emotions, and time too quickly becomes ordinary, predictable, easy. But a man who is careful, who grants access not as a default, but as a reward, creates mystery, gravity, and lasting impact. He understands that presence is a gift, not an obligation, and that intimacy is something to be unlocked, not assumed. To live this truth, he must stop offering himself like a free sample. He doesn't tell his life story on the second date. He doesn't share his wounds with someone who hasn't yet earned his trust. He sets thresholds, emotional, physical, mental. He observes what she offers, not just in words, but in consistency, in effort, in patience. Only when her actions prove her readiness does he begin to reveal depth. Not all at once, but slowly, piece by deliberate piece. Imagine this. She asks about a painful chapter in his past. Most men would spill it all, hoping vulnerability makes them seem deep or attractive. But not him. He smiles and says, "That's a story for when you've earned the next chapter." It's not arrogance, it's self-respect. She feels the difference. She leans in. Not because he's withholding, but because he's showing her that access to him has weight, and that she matters enough to rise to that weight if she chooses. But he must be careful. This isn't about playing games or faking mystery. It's about real standards. If he gives too soon, it's not just information that's lost. It's energy, time, and perception. So he guards his space. He opens doors slowly. Because once she realizes she can't just walk into his world, she might finally decide to earn her place in it. Rule 4. Never explain your value. To never explain your value is to understand that true power is felt, not declared. A man who knows his worth does not waste energy convincing others to see it. He does not announce his growth, his discipline, or his intentions. He simply embodies them. When he walks into a room, people don't listen because he's loud. They listen because his silence speaks louder than most speeches. He doesn't seek to be validated. He becomes undeniable through presence, not persuasion. To live this truth, he must resist the temptation to prove. When she questions his intentions, he doesn't argue. When she compares him to others, he doesn't compete. He lets his standards, his boundaries, and his results answer for him. Every action is a quiet assertion. I know who I am, and I don't need your approval to keep being it. This is not arrogance, it's clarity. He knows that value that must be explained is already being negotiated, and real value is never up for debate. Imagine this. He's been working relentlessly on his craft, his body, his career, his peace of mind. She asks, "So what are you really doing with your life?" Most men would scramble to list achievements, to impress, but not him. He smiles, shrugs, and says, "You'll see." And she will, in time. Not through his words, but through how he moves, how he decides, how he refuses to beg for recognition. She may not understand it at first, but she will feel it. What he must watch for is the urge to defend himself when misunderstood, to overshare in moments of insecurity. But a man who explains too much dilutes his presence. A man who simply shows up, disciplined, focused, grounded, creates a silence others lean into. That's not mystery, that's presence. And presence, when grounded in truth, always commands the room. Rule 5. Make her compete with your future. To make her compete with your future is to place your purpose above her approval, not to punish her, but to protect your path. A man who is truly driven doesn't revolve around women. Women orbit him. He doesn't create jealousy by entertaining other options. He creates distance by staying locked into his vision. He's not avoiding connection. He's inviting only those who can walk beside him without slowing him down. And in doing so, he turns attention into attraction, not through scarcity, but through direction. To live this truth, he must become unapologetically committed to his growth. He doesn't explain why he can't always be available. He doesn't justify the hours spent working, training, planning, building. When she tries to pull him into emotional chaos, he doesn't react, he refocuses. He makes it clear, not with words, but with choices, that his mission is not up for negotiation. Not even for her. He is not harsh. He is precise. He doesn't say no to connection, but he says not now, when presence comes at the cost of purpose. Picture this. She starts to complain that he's too busy, that she misses the version of him who used to drop everything for her. Most men would feel guilty, try to balance everything, stretch themselves thin to keep her close. But not him. He smiles gently, kisses her forehead and says, "I want you here, but this path won't slow down." And then he goes back to work. She's left with a choice. Rise to meet his pace or fall behind. What he must guard against is emotional manipulation disguised as love. The moment he lets guilt rewrite his priorities, he loses both her respect and his own momentum. But when he holds firm, kind, clear, and grounded, he doesn't just inspire her. He challenges her to grow. And the right woman won't walk away from that. She'll step up or step aside. Either way, he keeps walking forward. Closing. Be the standard. You were raised to believe kindness meant constant giving, that love meant always explaining, that being chosen meant always chasing. But here's the truth they never taught you. The more accessible you are, the less you're seen. The more you prove yourself, the quicker you're dismissed. Real presence isn't loud. It's rare. You're not remembered for what you endured. You're remembered for the moment you walked away with grace, silence, and self-respect. Not out of pride, but to protect what's sacred, your peace, your energy, your standard. If this truth hits something deep, don't just scroll past. Leave a comment. Say what you're reclaiming. Share this with someone who needs to remember their worth. And above all, live it. Be the standard. Let the world adjust.